Assalamualaikum. My name is Aidatul Ain binti Rahmat. My matric number is 255186. So today I'm gonna talk about my individual assignment. The topic is corporate governance and performance of BreadTalk Group Limited. So the issue is BreadTalk wastewater contaminated with the chemical and illegal discharge into public sewer poses significant risk to public health and the environment. Based on the other article said that previously the company had been slapped with a 6 charge, totaling a fine of 19,000 Singapore dollar for breaking the same law. So in this issue, I want to highlight every company need to apply the concept of accountability. First research objective is to investigate the internal factor toward the performance of BreadTalk company. Second is to investigate the external factor toward the performance of the BreadTalk company. And lastly, to investigate the internal toward the performance of the BreadTalk company. Research question. First is, does any relationship between the internal factor toward the performance of BreadTalk? Second, does any connection between the external factor toward the performance of BreadTalk? Third is, does any relationship between both internal and external factor toward the performance of BreadTalk? This is a literature review. According to Roy, 2016, strong corporate governance can reduce the expected return on equity, and it reduces the cost of shareholder monitoring and auditing, which then lead to a lower cost of capital. The second literature review that I get from Soha, Kuriati, Ragil and Mangesti, 2018, the company performance indicators were analyzed for the effect of firm performance on the firm value ROA and ROE. If the company has high ROE, then the company has the opportunity to improve its capital growth. Instead, the company does not profit from the overall resources used. It will repress the development of its capital. Okay, this is the methodology. The population of this research is corporate governance index in relation and its determinant. Annual report for 5 years, 2004 until 2018, has been chosen as a sample to conduct this research in a more practical way to determine the relationship between the dependent variable and independent variable. For the linear regression model, we derive for the internal factor, external factor, and the combine for both internal and external. For model 1, we use linear regression model for performance with the internal factor. The second model is we use the linear regression for performance with the external factor. The third model is we use the linear regression model for performance with the internal and external factor. Okay, this is a descriptive statistic table. If you can see, this is in this table, the higher of standard deviation, the more fluctuate, and the lower standard deviation means less fluctuate. So the higher of fluctuate means more sensitive and risky. It can be toward the difference between each year for 5 years. So for instance, debt to income have the higher mean, which is 5.3267, and it also the most fluctuate, which is the standard deviation 21.9647 today, and the amount are not same for the following day, because the standard deviation are more than 2. If the standard deviation close to 0, the mean or the average amount will stay the same and not risky, compared to the standard deviation more than 2 are too risky. The higher the number, the standard deviation, the more of unpredictable of the company. Based on the table, the correlation of both internal and external factor of BreadTalk, according to the result, most of the variables have negative correlation. When one variable is higher, that will associate lower value for the other variable. So this means that as one variable increase, the others decrease. For the debt to income and corporate governance index have higher correlation with the ROA. For instance, the ROA has a higher negative correlation with the debt to income, and also debt to income, the significant correlation is negative 0.887, and the second one is the second highest is corporate governance index. The value is negative 0.829. P value is not more than 0.10. That ROA has the higher negative correlation with the CGI if compared to the other variable. First, model summary of dependent and internal factor. This tells us that adjusted R square show that the 98% of the variance in the dependent variable is explained by the debt to income and corporate governance index. This result is ROA will be positively related to debt to income and total corporate governance index. This is for the second model, model of summary BreadTalk performance on external factors. Okay, this table show from this table of dependent and external factor. This tells us that 100% of the variance in the dependent variable is explained by STDV, interest rate, and exchange rate. This result is ROA will be positively related to the STDV, interest rate, GDP, and exchange rate. Okay, this is for third model summary for BreadTalk performance on internal external factor. So this table show that dependent with internal and external factor that tell us 100% of variance in the dependent variable is explained by the debt to income, total corporate governance index, STDV, and current ratio. This is the ANOVA BreadTalk performance on internal factor. This table show that the have two variable, debt to income and total corporate governance index have significant to the ROA. That for the debt to income, the significant is 0.045, and the total corporate index, the significant value is 0.010. Based on the ANOVA result, model 1, which is the internal factor, statistically significant to ROA with the p-value 0.1 when the internal factor are examined. Okay, this is the ANOVA BreadTalk performance on external factor. This table show that no significant numbers show in this table, but the model 2 has statistically no significant to ROA, which is the p-value more than 0.01 when the external factor are examined, show that there's no significant value on the table. Okay, this is the coefficient table, show that the performance on internal and external factors. So based on the table, we found that the debt to income, corporate governance index, STDV, and current ratio has the most significant effect to the performance. Beside the debt to income, corporate governance index, STDV, and current ratio influence ROA positively. So this result is consistent with the study of Asian economic and financial review that state that the increase of performance in a country will eventually increase all the variable. Okay, for the conclusion, BreadTalk performance is affected mainly by the debt to income and corporate governance index for internal factors, and the market risk STDV for the external factors. So the higher the debt to income and market risk of Singapore, the better of the company performance. So a company performance is determined by internal and external factor. In this case, BreadTalk company external factor has a greater influence on the company than internal factors. So however, it could be difficult for a company to control its external environment. So hence, it would be more persuasively for the BreadTalk to enhance the internal factor if the company fail to decrease the debt to income, the performance and ability company able to manage to make payment every month to repay the borrower money become worse. That's all. Thank you.